normal sense, every human being has a specific nature of their own, be it being a shy, be it being introvert, being socially, social person or social being, be it extroverted. There are various natures that a human being have. So just like that, our very Indian constitution also has some specific nature. So this is the very important question regarding administrative law also, the very nature and scope of Indian constitution. So in this video, we are going to understand what are the nature of the Indian constitution and what are the scope that Indian constitution provides to us. So let's get started. So let's have a quick introduction regarding the very nature and scope of Indian Constitution. The Constitution of India is a comprehensive document that articulates the fundamental structure, principles, and functioning of the government of India. It serves as the backbone of Indian democracy and governance. So, as we all know, the Indian Constitution is a codified document. Whatever the articles, the section, mainly the articles, it has a written document, it is codified, and all other laws that we have, be it IPC, be it BNS, be it BSA, be it TPA, all kind of laws got their very relevance or got their identity from the very constitution itself. So constitution is kind of a document which gives power to the other laws to perform to their own. Now let us have some quick points from this very paragraph. Define the nature and purpose of governance. So what does the Indian Constitution do? The Indian Constitution defines the very nature of Indian Constitution and also says how the government should work. Framework for laws and institutions. It also provides a proper framework on what basis law can be made upon. Source of citizens' rights and duties, and it also clarifies what should be the right of the people in general. So all other things are codified in a very document which we all know as the Constitution of India. Now let's move into the very nature of India's constitution. The Constitution of India declares India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So these are the very words that we get to see in the preamble itself. This affirms India's commitment to freedom, social justice, religious tolerance, and rule by the people. So this is the very nature of Indian Constitution. But what we end up doing, most of the students, even me, years back, so when we read something, we just try to memorize it. We don't try to understand the words which is alien to us. We just try to memorize it like a parrot just so that we can go in the exams and write it as it is. But that's not the correct way of learning things, because the moment you finish your exam or after some period of time, you will eventually forget the words which were alien to you, because the very beginning itself you were not, you know ready to know the answer by yourself, so that it can save your time, which is not very meaningful later on. So whatever you read, whenever you read anything, if you find certain words that is, you don't know the meaning, so just go and google it and know the words right there, because when the next time you will come and see the very document or very answer, it would be very much easier for you to understand the concept, because by then you will be able to know the meaning of that particular word. So just like that, I have tried to write the meaning here. Sovereign means independent authority. The Indian Constitution of the Constitution of India talks about the independent authority. Socialized, commitment to social welfare. The Indian Constitution gives us a commitment to social welfare. Then it is secular, religious freedom and equality. As you can see, in India, people of various culture, various religion can pursue their own religion, be it a Hindu, be it a Muslim, be it a Christian, because our very preamble has given us the power to exercise our own religion, because it is secular in nature. The Constitution of India is secular in nature. Because of that, the citizens can exercise their own religion. Then we have democratic, that means ruled by elected representatives. So in our India, we don't have a concept of a queen or a king ruling the country, right? Because we have a democratic system ruled by elected representatives. We have the right to vote, and by using that we can choose our own representative. Then we have republic, head of state is elected. So these are the very nature of Indian's constitution. It is sovereign, it is socialist, it is secular, democratic, and republic. So these will fall under the very nature of Indian constitution. Now let's move into quasi-federal structure. So this is another nature of Indian constitution. India follows a quasi-federal system with both federal and unitary element. Now it is a very complex question where most of the time it asks whether Indian constitution is federal in nature or unitary in nature. So how do we answer that? We have the both element of unitary as well as federal nature. That's why we can consider it quasi-federal in nature. While power is divided between the center and states, the central government holds supremacy in certain conditions. We have this division between center and state, which makes it federal in nature. But when it makes it unitary, when we have emergency kind of scenario, when we have you know failure of states, then the central can prevail and rule over that particular state. So this makes it as a unitary feature. So because of we both have the features, it can be called as quasi-federal structure. Federal features division powers, independent judiciary. Now, if we need to take out what are the elements which says Indian Constitution as a federal nature, we can talk about division of powers between state and center, and independent judiciary. Judiciary is independent from both of the organ. Then unitary state. So what are the unitary elements that we have in the Indian Constitution? That is strong center, single constitution. During emergency, the center can rule over that particular state, and there are also some other exercises the center which empowers the centers more superior in comparison to state. Then we have the single constitution. Both the center state will follow one particular constitution only. So this is a unitary trait or unitary feature that we have under our Indian constitution. For example, center can deploy military in states during emergency. So these are the very nature of Indian constitution, that is quasi-federal. Some of the elements talks about our Indian constitution as a federal one. Some of the essentials talks about Indian constitution as a unitary one. Now let's move about written and supreme law. This is another points which will fall under the very nature of Indian constitution. The constitution is a codified document, the supreme law of the land. As I said, it is a codified document. All the provisions, all the article has been written in a particular document which is written and which holds the supremacy. It is the supreme of any higher authority. All laws must conform to it, and the judiciary can invalidate laws that violate constitutional provision. As I said, if you are making any particular law, it has to be adherence to the Indian constitution. Otherwise, it can be declared as void later. Codified and written document, supreme law of the land, judicial review ensures constitutional supremacy, and we have this judicial review provision. If any law found to be, you know, not getting with the Indian constitution or against the Indian constitution, that will be declared void later on. Let's move it to fundamental rights, which is given in under part 3 of Indian constitution. The constitution guarantees fundamental rights to all citizens, ensuring liberty, equality, and protection under the law. So these are the rights that has been given to us in the Indian constitution in part 3. That is right to equality, right to freedom, right to religion, right against exploitation, right to constitutional remedies, that is under Article 32 and Article 226. So what's the point of adding here? Because if our rights got violated and if there is no remedy available, there is no point of giving anyone any right if we can't go and ask for its enforcement. So this is the very reason why we need the right to constitutional remedies under Article 32 and 226, that is exercised by High Court and Supreme Court. Then we move into the scope of our Indian Constitution. So when we talk about scope, for example, A is a student in the stream of science. So if he takes science in 12, what are the scopes he will get? He can enter into do MBBS, he can offer engineering college, he can also go for BSc nursing or other stuff. That is the scope that A is having after getting science in 12th. So just like that, Indian Constitution also has some scope in it. So now we will understand further the scope that Indian Constitution provides. That is DPSP, which is given under Part 3. So fundamental rights is given under Part 3, DPSP falls under Part 4. So this is the very confusing for sometimes for students, which is before comes fundamental rights or DPSP. So DPSP in Part 3 and sorry, fundamental rights in Part 3 and DPSP we have in Part 4. The ethic principle guides the government in policy making. So what is the duty of DPSP? To guide the government in policy making. Its role is to guide the government in making policies for the citizen. Though not enforceable in courts, they are crucial for achieving social and economic democracy. They are not enforceable by head, but they have the right, they have the responsibility for achieving social and economic democracy. And what is the very role of DPSP? That is, it promotes social welfare, aim for equal opportunity and education. It is the very aim of very state to promote equality among all the citizens, encourage economic justice. For example, free and compulsory education. This is a very example of DPSP. Now let's move into structure of government. Another scope of Indian constitution that is provides the structure of government, how a government would be made. The constitution outlines the role and responsibilities of the central, state and local governments, defining their interrelationship. So it talks about the central state and the local governments and their relationship among all. So they provide the scope for the structure of government, how government would be made. Central government, that is parliament, president, prime minister, they'll be falling upon the central government list. Then we have state government, it is governors and state legislature. Then in local bodies we have panchayats and municipalities. So Indian constitution gives us the scope that how all they will be functioning, what their structure would be look like, and what should be the relationship among all. So this is the very scope that Indian constitution provides. Then we have judiciary and its role, which is another scope of Indian constitution. An independent judiciary is the cornerstones of Indian democracy. So it has been said to be as the cornerstone of Indian democracy. It interprets the constitution and resolves disputes. So what is the very duty of Indian judiciary? It interprets the constitution. Whatever is written in the constitution, it interprets it. It makes it clear the what the legislature wanted to convey. That is the very role of judiciary, and also to resolve dispute. Supreme Court is the guardian of the constitution. Supreme Court is known as the guardian of Indian constitution. Supreme Court is known to safeguard the people's rights. High courts at state level, same responsibility has been vested upon High Court also, which works at state level, ensure justice and seeks abuse of power. So it is the very duty of responsibility of judiciary that has been given to them by the very Indian constitution itself. Now let's move into the amendment process, which we have under part 20 of Indian constitution in the article of 368. So whenever we read something, if we can link it with the similar concept, it will be easier for us to revise it at the very moment itself. So the constitution, let's first know the meaning. What is amendment? So it is very easy. It's about removing, modifying, erasing, deleting. All kind of meaning will be fall upon amendment. But when we talk about amendment regarding to law, it talks about certain modification. The constitution allows itself to evolve. As I said, the Indian constitution is very old document. It has been adopted long back. But what if we don't want to change with changing time? What if we still stick to the constitution that has been made decades ago? So if we don't want to accept new changes, that possibility will be always lagging behind. So in order to make it growing, in order to make it evolving, this amendment process has been added into the Indian constitution. So where it talks about if some of the provisions is not uh, getting well with today's scenario, then it gives us the power to modify them for the betterment of the society. So that is the very role and aim of the amendment process. The amendment process ensures that necessary changes can be made while preserving its core principle, but while doing so, we cannot destroy the very core or very backbone of the Indian constitution. We can do a little bit of modification, but we cannot destroy the very structure of which is given in the very famous case, that is fundamental rights case, or which is also known as Kesavananda Bharati case. So this is the very landmark case that every law student, every judiciary aspirant has to remember at any cost. So let us have a quick points from this very paragraph. Amendments require special parliamentary majority. So it gives a quite lengthy detail how amendment would be made. Some also need state ratification, ensures balance between flexibility and rigidity. So this is basically how amendment would be made. So now let's so in this video, I have tried to cover all necessary information relating to India, very nature and scope of Indian Constitution. We'll be meeting soon with another video with such legal updates. If you found this video valuable and worth watching, please do share, like and subscribe, and do comment on which topic you want me to give and detailed explanation. Soon I'll be bringing that to you. So that's all for today. Seeing you soon.